The sky was a wash of ashen grey when the traveller arrived at the foot of Mount Gyeongsong. All day the sun had struggled to dissolve the fog that clung to the ridges, but as evening drew near, the low clouds turned plum-coloured, merging seamlessly with the thick forest canopy. This mountain, nestled deep in the heart of a lesser-known region of the peninsula, had long been said to harbour mysteries, some enchanting, others far darker. Yet, none of these old tales had discouraged So-Yen from making her journey. If anything, they had piqued her curiosity ever more. Her interest was largely academic, though it was fueled by a spark of childish wonder as well. So-Yen was a researcher of ancient texts and relics, eager to uncover the hidden tapestry behind local folklore. She had spent years in the capital, poring over dusty documents that hinted at an ancestral spirit said to guard these mountain peaks. Like so many legends, the account varied. Some said it was a giant white tiger, ghostly and proud, that stalked any who dared desecrate the land. Others spoke of a woman's voice echoing late at night, wailing in anger. Whatever shape the legend took, all versions coincided in a single detail. The spirit was fiercely protective of Mount Gyeongsong. Many men, it was said, ventured up the slopes with arrogance in their hearts, only to vanish. So-Yen was determined to find answers, if they existed at all. As she alighted from the bus in a remote village, a chilly wind blew past her, carrying the sharp tang of pine and damp earth. She took a moment to gaze up at the slope, half hidden by swirling mist. The place felt as though it were on the cusp between the tangible world and something older, intangible, and immeasurably powerful. She trudged through the village, small and quaint, where locals peered at her with a mixture of curiosity and caution. About halfway along the main street, So-Yen spotted a modest tea house. An old wooden sign creaked in the breeze. She pushed aside the beaded curtain hanging in the doorway and stepped in. The aroma of freshly brewed barley tea enveloped her. Inside, an elderly man greeted her with a faint smile. He was dressed simply, in neutral-coloured traditional clothing, and he gestured for her to sit. There were no other customers, and the dim, warm interior made it feel as if time moved slower here than anywhere else. "You are travelling alone?" the man asked, his voice gentle yet hoarse with age. "Yes," said So-Yen, unwrapping the scarf from her neck. "I've come to research the old shrine." The elderly man's brow tightened. "The shrine," he repeated, a note of disquiet creeping into his voice. "Is that wise, travelling there alone?" So-Yen nodded politely. "I believe so. I've read many accounts of the shrine. It's supposed to be an ancient sanctuary dedicated to the mountain spirit. The records suggest it was once revered by the local people." He studied her face a moment longer, then turned to ladle hot water into a waiting teacup. "That's what the place used to be. Long ago, many pilgrims trekked to that shrine to pray for guidance, to seek blessings for a good harvest, or for their family's well-being." He paused before speaking again. "They stopped after a tragedy, an incident no one likes to talk about. Some claim there's a spirit dwelling there, vengeful and wild, not friendly to outsiders." So-Yen leaned forward. "It's a tigress, isn't it? Or, so the legends say." His eyes flickered. "Yes. They say it was once a living tigress, a guardian that protected this mountain from invaders. But the story is complicated. The spirit, if it exists, might not look kindly on intruders. Just take care, young traveller. Be respectful." She bowed her head in gratitude. "I will, thank you. Would you be able to direct me to someone who knows more?" A ghost of a smile crossed his lip. "Not many left who remember the old ways," he murmured. "Yet there's one person. My sister, she stays in the last cottage past the rice fields on the eastern edge. She's lived there all her life. They call her Halmione Yon." "Thank you," said So-Yen sincerely. "I'll go speak with her." She finished her tea slowly, savouring each sip. Outside, dusk had wrapped the village in thick shadows. When she stepped onto the dirt road again, the air felt heavier. There was a hush, as if the men and women in the adjacent houses had collectively held their breath. She passed shuttered windows and dilapidated fences, coming finally to wide golden paddies that glowed faintly under the moonlight. Past the fields, she spotted a single light in the distance. She trudged forward, the wet soil of the paddy's border squelching under her boots. Eventually, the path led her to a small cottage perched on the edge of a slope. She knocked on the door, which appeared to be crafted of bamboo strips. After a moment, it slid open to reveal a woman, her hair white as bleach bone. This must be Halmione Yong. She squinted at her visitor's face before stepping aside and letting So Yen enter. I was told you might know something about the mountain shrine, So Yen began politely. She bowed. Halmione Yong motioned toward the low wooden table in the center of the small living space. 2 teacups sat, pre-filled with steaming liquid, as though the old woman had been expecting company. Sit, she said simply. So Yen settled onto the woven mat, letting the warmth of the tea seep through the vessel into her fingers. The old woman regarded her with an expression that held both welcome and mild reproach. People don't come here often, Yong said quietly. They're scared, or they consider it nonsense. But what do you hope to find up there? I'm a scholar, replied So Yen. I want to understand the truth behind these legends. They say the shrine is dangerous, but the older records speak of it as a sacred place. There's talk of a tigress spirit, awakened whenever the mountain is threatened. Do you know why it walks the earth in anger? Yo nodded, her eyes growing distant, as though recalling a story she had heard countless times. You need to understand. The tigress was not always a ghostly spectre. Ages ago, our people revered the mountain. They believed the spirit manifested as a guardian known as the White Tigress of Gyeongsong. She was said to roam the highs and lows of the forest, turning away bandits, repelling armies, and protecting the villages that dotted the foothills. The shrine was built in her honor, and for many years there was harmony between the villagers and this guardian. But harmony can be broken, the old woman continued, voice laced with regret. Misfortune came, and with it, men whose hearts were full of greed. A wealthy lord desired the mountain's resources, its timber, its minerals. He saw the shrine as an obstacle. On a stormy night, the tigress was lured to the shrine steps with an offering that had been poisoned. She died in agony, torn between her fury at being betrayed and her love for the humans she had protected. As her spirit left the mortal realm, she cursed the mountain's new masters, swearing she would return if they ever again tried to exploit or desecrate the land. Soyeon felt the hair on her arms stand on end. And people believe she did come back? Yong's gaze flicked up when men from afar tried to build a mining operation years later. Rumors spread of a white tigress spotted at night. Workers vanished mysteriously or tumbled off cliffs. Equipment was sabotaged. Eventually the project was abandoned, and the mountain endured. They say her presence remains. Her spirit is vengeance, unleashed whenever the mountain is threatened. I see. Suyen's eyes shone with fascination. Is there a way to appease her anger? Or is it her destiny to remain vengeful? The old woman pursed her lips. Some say the spirit can be placated if one truly honors the old traditions. If one approaches the shrine with humility, bringing an offering of sincerity. But many who have tried were not sincere. They came out of curiosity or greed, hoping to glean the spirit's power. None found favor. The shrine stands as a haunting place, a caution to all who would use the land for selfish ends. They spoke a while longer, Halmione Young sharing details of the older rites, the lighting of lanterns along the cedar path, the recitation of an ancient chant. Finally, So Young inquired about lodging for the night. The old woman simply nodded. Stay here, she said. You can leave in the morning. The path to the shrine is long, and it's not wise to wander the forest at night. Under a thatched roof, lulled by the distant chorus of frogs, So Young drifted into a restless sleep. Her dreams were vivid, permeated by images of a great white tigress prowling beneath a moonless sky, fiery eyes scanning for threats among the thick undergrowth. She awoke before dawn. The horizon shimmered with the faintest illumination of incoming morning. Halmione Yong was already awake, preparing a simple breakfast of rice and pickled vegetables. She ushered So-Yin to eat, then gave her a small pouch containing dried herbs, explaining that burning them and inhaling the scent might grant a measure of favor from the mountain's guardian. With a final bow of gratitude, So-Yin set out. The path wound through layers of evergreen trees, each bough heavy with dew. Above, birds welcomed daybreak with a cacophony of chirping that, to So-Yin, felt both comforting and ominous. She had read about the haunting density of these forests, but experiencing it firsthand made every snap of a twig echo with potential danger or significance. After hours of climbing, the trees parted to reveal a slope of mossy rocks. Water trickled down in rivulets, creating small pools that glimmered in early sunlight. So-Yin paused there to catch her breath. That was when she heard it. A distant growl, low and primal, echoing through the forest. She froze. Her heart pounded, and she scanned the surrounding shadows, trying to spot any movement. The noise did not repeat. Gradually, she continued, her strides more cautious. By midday, the sun was high. She reached a cluster of stone steps, half buried under debris and vines, leading up to a neglected gate. Here, the forest canopy was thick, and the air had grown still and cool. As So-Yin ascended, she felt a strange trembling beneath her feet, as though the earth itself exhaled a weary breath. The shrine's courtyard lay in partial ruin. Stone lanterns, long covered in lichens, lined the perimeter. The main gate was chipped and worn, the peeling paint faintly visible in corners, telling of a time when the structure must have been vibrant vermilion. Now the courtyard was heartbreakingly empty, like a place that had once been full of prayer and hope, abandoned to the relentless encroachment of vines. At the courtyard's far end, beyond tumbled statues and a half-collapsed arch, stood a small hall. Its sliding doors had rotted away, exposing the interior to the weather. So-Yin stepped inside. A hush enveloped her. The floor creaked beneath her weight, and dust swirled in golden beams of light streaming through the broken roof. In the center of the hall, she found a weather-worn altar. It bore the faint relief of a tiger's face carved into the stone tabletop with an inscription beneath. Though much of the text was difficult to read, So-Yin carefully traced her fingers over a few archaic characters that spelled out protector, spirit, injustice, vengeance. She recalled Halmione Yong's instructions. Carefully, she undid the small pouch of herbs. Placing a pinch on a piece of bark, she lit it with a match. A sweet, pungent aroma rose in spirals. She remembered to recite a small incantation, an old invocation she had memorized from her research. Spirit of the mountain, eternal guardian, we bow in reverence to your ancient vow. Her voice wavered with both reverence and anxiety. For a moment she sensed nothing. Then, in the corners of her vision, the shadows seemed to move. A breeze rushed through the shrine hall, stirring dust and leaves in a sudden swirl. She heard a low rumbling again, not quite audible in the external world, but reverberating behind her ribcage. Her mouth went dry. Then everything was still. The presence had retreated, or perhaps it was biding its time. That night, she camped on a patch of level ground near the shrine, setting up a soft curtain, and the stars blinked faintly through the thick canopy overhead. The forest was alive with sounds, chirping insects, croaking frogs, the rustle of small animals. But So-Yin could almost sense another presence, older and watchful. She felt it in the hair standing on the back of her neck, in the swirling hush that occasionally descended, quelling every other creature's chatter, as if they too feared the same unseen entity. She woke abruptly sometime after midnight to a fierce roar that shook her to her bone. Bolting from her sleeping bag, she fumbled for her flashlight. The night outside was pitch black, except for the faint glow of the moon partially screened by clouds. Her heart hammered, her throat constricted. She heard no more roars, but the silence was more chilling than any noise. Mustering courage, she pressed forward, stepping out from the tent. The flashlight's beam cut across the courtyard, revealing the decaying lanterns. Then something gleamed at the far edge of the clearing near an ancient pine. Two gold-tinged orbs seemed to hover there, watching her. Eyes. The shape was huge, a silhouette that stirred the undergrowth with the quiet authority of a predator. "So-yan," came a whisper impossible, she thought, for a tiger to speak her name. And yet she heard it. The voice reverberated in her mind, sending cold dread down her spine. It sounded both feminine and savage, layered with centuries of wounded wrath. She called out, her voice shaking, "Spirit of the mountain, I mean no harm. I'm here seeking knowledge and to pay respect." The shape glided forward, still staying half hidden in the gloom. The eyes blazed, and in a flicker of moonlight So-yen caught a better glimpse. White fur, taut muscles, and stripes that seemed to ripple in the dim light. It was indeed a tigress, her presence both regal and terrifying. The voice spoke again, though the beast's mouth did not move in any normal way. "You speak with sincerity, but you come at a dire time. The mountain trembles once more under the threat of humans with greed in their hearts." So-yen felt an icy dread mingled with curiosity. "What threat?" she asked. "I haven't heard of any new development. My calculations showed no active logging or mining here." The tigress circled her, stopping at a gap in the courtyard's perimeter. "They come at dawn," the voice intoned. "Their machines, their will to carve out roads and tunnels, to erode the land. They have not learned from the mistakes of the past." Indeed, if So-yen listened closely, she realized she could hear distant mechanical rumblings, faint but unmistakable, coming from somewhere beyond the forest. Her heart sank. She had not anticipated that others might have the same interest in this mountain for far more exploitative reasons. "What do you intend?" she asked in a hushed tone. The tigress's spirit seemed to pulse with a fierce energy, eyes narrowing. "My vow remains. This place will not be despoiled. I will drive them out, as I have before. If they refuse to leave, they will know my cause." A fear tugged at So-yen's heart. She could sense the spirit's rage, a raw and ancient fury. Vengeance had preserved this guardian, but it also bound her, preventing any peace. So-yen did not blame her. Humans had betrayed the tigress in life and continued to exploit the land in death. But she had to try and spare both sides from the cycle of bloodshed that loomed. She inclined her head. "Let me speak to them," she whispered. "Find another way. I can warn them. Maybe they will leave." A guttural growl rippled through the night. "If your words fail, they will pay for their arrogance." So-yen sucked in a breath as the tigress's silhouette evaporated into the darkness, leaving her alone once more. The only traces left behind were illegible footprints in the dew-laden grass and a deep sense of awe that set her entire body trembling. First light, she gathered her belongings, extinguished her campfire, and made her way down the path. The forest was quieter than she'd ever known it, as though every living thing waited in anticipation of the impending clash. She didn't have to travel far before encountering a group of men in bright, reflective jackets, accompanied by a few trucks parked along a makeshift path. She approached, her heart fluttering. A heavy-set foreman glanced up from a map, startled to see a lone woman in these remote woods. "Hello," she said. "What's going on here?" He frowned, suspicion in his eyes. "We're surveying this area for a construction project, a new road that'll eventually lead to a resort. I'm guessing you know that. No one wanders here casually." She forced a smile. "I'm a researcher. For your own sake, you need to leave. This mountain, it's not safe. There is an old spirit that protects the land. Pushing forward could unleash something none of us can control." He scoffed, though some of the younger workers exchanged nervous glances. "We've heard the local superstition. It won't stop us. The government's behind it, and the company stands to make a fortune from tourism. Our instructions are clear, So-Yun's voice edged with urgency. Then at least be cautious. You may not believe me, but this place has its own ways of dealing with trespassers. He only shrugged. I don't have time to discuss folk tales. We'll be placing markers for the next few hours. If you know what's good for you, head back to the village. This is no place for a lone traveller. With that, he turned away, instructing a group of surveyors to continue up the slope toward the shrine's direction. So-Yun's stomach clenched into a tight knot. She could see the stubbornness in their eyes, the greed or ignorance that fueled them, and she sensed the phantom presence in the forest, seething just out of sight, waiting to unleash fury. No more than half an hour later, the tension reached a breaking point. She heard panicked shouting from beyond the tree line. Rushing toward the commotion, she found men flailing and shouting as a pale streak of fur darted among the trunks. Tools scattered, flags and apparatus toppled. Workers scrambled away, terror etched into their faces as the tigress's spirit snarled and bared her fangs, loud and imposing as a thunderclap reverberating off the mountainside. So-Yun's heart raced. She stood on a small outcropping of rocks, uncertain of her role. The spirit slashed at a truck's side, leaving deep gouges in the metal that fizzled and sparked unnaturally, as if another worldly force magnified the impact. With a roar, the tigress advanced, eyes aflame. The men cowered, one or two brandishing tools as makeshift weapons. "Stop!" So-Yun shouted, her voice cracked and desperate. She leapt in front of a cluster of workers, arms outstretched, heart hammering so hard it threatened to burst from her chest. The tigress stopped, ears flattened, smoke-like wisps curling around her spectral form. "Call off your men," So-Yun begged the foreman. "Leave this place, or she will kill you." He stood, trembling but defiant. We've got a job to do," he stammered, yet fear glistened in his eyes. Some of his crew had already bolted, running down the slope, not looking back. The tigress snarled. Her voice, in So-Yun's mind, was like a wave of hatred. "They bring ruin. Do not stand in my way." So-Yun felt a chill race through her veins, but she stared directly into those golden eyes and said, "Please, not like this. Show them your power, but let them leave with their lives, so they may tell others what they have witnessed and never return." For several heartbeats, neither creature nor humans moved. The air was thick with tension. Finally, the tigress roared, a sound that rattled the branches overhead and sent crows squawking into flight. She bounded forward, landing inches from So-Yun, fangs exposed in a terrifying display. But instead of mauling her, the spirit turned, a silent command in that primal glare. The men gathered what they could, tripping over themselves, and fled downhill as fast as their legs would carry them. Once the clang of metal tools and the frantic thrashing of men through undergrowth dwindled into the distance, the spectral tigress raised her head. A breeze stirred her translucent fur. "You asked for mercy, and I granted it," came the voice in So-Yun's mind. "Pray they do not return." So-Yun exhaled, tears of relief brimming in her eyes. The tiger's rage was not sated, but she had shown enough restraint to spare lives. The forest fell silent, as though choking on the currents of supernatural energy swirling around them. Then, in a graceful, eerie movement, the tigress turned and padded back up the slope toward the shrine, disappearing like a phantom into the shifting, dappled patterns of light and shadow. The next day, So-Yun found the same group of men packing up their trucks. Clusters of villagers had arrived, spurred by the commotion. The foreman paced, cursing under his breath, clearly shaken. "I'll file a report," he muttered. "We'll need a bigger team, maybe more specialized equipment. But that thing, that wasn't normal." Some of the other workers flat out refused to continue. Rumors spread of a ghostly white tiger capable of tearing steel. Several men quit on the spot. The foreman looked torn, but the project had clearly suffered a decisive blow. He had no choice but to retreat for the moment. So-Yun watched them leave, fleeting relief coursing through her. She made her way back up to the shrine that afternoon. The place was quiet. The broken archway and the courtyard's ruined lanterns cast languid shadows across the ground. She stepped inside the hall once more. This time she carried new offerings: fresh rice cakes, a small dish of spring water, and the last pinch of Halmeone Yong's herbs. She knelt before the stone altar. Gently, she placed everything in front of the weathered carvings and lit the herbs, letting the fragrance rise. "Thank you," she murmured, voice trembling with reverence and sympathy. "Thank you for showing mercy. I pray that you find some measure of peace here. I will do what I can to protect these mountains from further harm." A hush, then a faint swirl of wind wrapped around her. She sensed a presence behind her, warm breath on the back of her neck. The spirit's voice, quieter now, less burdened by wrath, whispered in her mind, "The mountain endures for now. Go in peace, child." Soyeon bowed deeply, her forehead nearly touching the floor. When she looked up, there was only the flickering curl of smoke from the burning herbs and a faint spiced aroma lingering in the still air. On her way down the slope, she noticed that even the forest seemed lighter and more welcoming, as though it had released some tension it had been holding for ages. A gentle breeze rustled through the trees, playing a soft melody that spoke of relief and lingering caution. Returning to the village later that day, she found Halmeone Yong waiting outside the small cottage. The old woman greeted her with a calm nod. "I felt the air change," she said. "You've done something important, haven't you?" Soyeon couldn't suppress a small smile, though her eyes gleamed with tears. "I only tried to help. The spirit drove away the threat, and hopefully it won't return." Yong gazed toward the mountain peaks, lost in reflection. "That's all we can do, try," she replied. "And in doing so, perhaps mend some of the harm done in generations past." Soyeon stayed one more night in the village. The next morning, she prepared to depart, not because she had already learned everything there was to know, but because she felt a subtle hint from the mountain. The shrine did not desire further intrusion. Perhaps in time she would return with the right kind of reverence, offering up scholarly findings in a way that served both knowledge and respect for the land's power. But for now, the mountain deserved its rest. She boarded the bus, looking out the window at the fading silhouette of Mount Gyeongsong. Her bag was heavier with new notes, including records of the frightening yet awe-inspiring events of the past few days, though her heart felt lighter somehow. The raw existence of the Tigress spirit was beyond mortal understanding, somewhere between the realm of legends and the tangible physical world. Even from miles away, Soyeon fancied she could sense a pair of golden eyes watching over the ridges, ensuring no more unscrupulous men threatened those forests. And perhaps, for the first time in centuries, the vengeful Tigress felt a flicker of hope that not all humans were treacherous. The guardian presence would remain vigilant, an ancient promise of protection that rippled through the moss and pine needles carried forward by the wind. And the mountain, cloaked in myths and crowned by the echoing roar of its eternal sentinel, would continue to stand, watchful and formidable, for many more centuries to come.